My name is Wisdom Akwakige. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and I'm duly registered with the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants here in Canada. That would be the regulatory body that regulates immigration practice here in Canada. I'm also a foreign worker recruiter licensee in the provinces of Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia, where I live. I am a member of the Canadian Association of Professional Immigration Consultants, and I also belong to the Immigration Education Alliance. Today, we want to look at immigration options for foreign professionals to Canada. I think you would agree with me that that is something that's very important, because I know that a lot of persons have asked questions. What is obtainable? How do we make this happen? And all of that. So my goal really today is to try to throw light into this topic and then take questions subsequently. I thought a very good point to start, a very good place to start would be to examine Canada's recovery plan in terms of immigration, because if you want to come to Canada, you will definitely want to immigrate to Canada. And one of the things you need to be aware of is the plan that Canada has put in place. So very recently, the government of Canada came up with this recovery plan, and they shared it with the whole world. We know that the world is currently gradually coming out of the COVID pandemic, and every country is putting together some form of recovery plans to take things to sort of as close as possible to normal, what we had before the pandemic. So on this slide, you see that in 2021, Canada welcomed a record number of permanent residents, more than 405,000 individuals. Well, that's 2021. Immigration, we all know, accounts for almost 100% of Canada's labor force growth and nearly 80% of our population here in Canada. Canada regained many of the jobs lost during the pandemic, and that is correct. But there remain 960,000 unfilled positions across all sectors. So you can see that is a huge number there that is still left to be filled. By 2030, the goal actually is to achieve, the goal is that, or the projection is that 5 million Canadians will be retired, and the worker to retiree ratio will drop down to only about 3 to 1 ratio. So you can see that we will have more people retiring by 2030, which is approximately 8 years now. This is a clear sign that we have a strong economic need for increased immigration. I think you will agree with me on that. Now, they've put up both a short-term and a long-term goal. The short-term goal would be between 2022 and 2024, which I think really comes handy here. The 2022 to 2024 immigration level plan aims to welcome 431,645 permanent residents in 2022. And I believe we only have about 10 months to the end of 2022. In 2023, we would welcome 477,055 people. And in 2024, 451,000. Now, I'm not trying to bore you with all this figure, but I'm just trying to lay a foundation here to really establish the fact that Canada needs people to come and help out. They need foreign professionals to come as immigrants to Canada to handle all these jobs. In 2024, overall admission will amount to 1.14% of Canadian population, with nearly 60% of admissions in the economic class. Again, we're going to break these things down, and then you will see how these different programs come to help the government of Canada achieve their goal. Working to increase Francophone, so those that speak French, the government is also looking to do some things in that regard. Spreading the benefits of immigration to communities all across Canada. Now, if you look at the right side of the screen, you would see that the government of Canada went further to break down all these huge figures that we saw on the left part of the screen. I'm not really going to go deeply into these figures. But while I speak, if you want to take like a quick peek into these figures and maybe also look at the reference URL at the bottom there, which would be where I got all this information from. And that would be the website of the Government of Canada. If you also want to maybe take a picture or copy that in some way, you can spend some more time to look at that. But essentially, the screen to your right sort of breaks down all the figures that we talked about on the left. Now, I would go further to analyze each of these programs. So we have like the economic category, the family category, the refugees and protected persons category, the humanitarian and others. That also forms a category there. We're going to go through each of these categories and see what their requirements are and how people can jump in and take advantage of these categories to immigrate to Canada. Now, the express entry. Express entry, almost everybody knows the express entry. What is the express entry? It is an online application system for skilled workers. It is used to manage the 3 federal economic immigration programs in Canada. So we have 3 federal programs in Canada. They are the Canadian Experience Class, Federal Skilled Worker Program, Federal Skilled Trade Program. And I'm just going to quickly run through the 3 of them and tell you what the requirements are, just to see if you qualify for them and how you can take advantage of them. And then we can proceed to other options that are available for people that want to immigrate to Canada. The Canadian Experience Class, the big thing here is you need 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada. So if you don't have a 1-year experience in Canada, then you would not qualify for this program. There are many other requirements, but that's like the big ticket item there. You would require language ability, CLB7 for NOC skill level 0A, 0 or A, and CLB5 for NOC skill level B. Again, there are a lot of abbreviations here. I'm assuming we all are familiar. Some of them I'm going to define them, like NOC is the National Occupation Classification. So Canada sort of, instead of saying civil engineer, accountant, or the different job roles, they are assigned a 4-digit code to these job roles. And we'll see them eventually. We'll also talk about the skill level. So each of these job roles will have different skill levels, which we'll talk about. The training required, the education credential required to fill those roles. There's a federal skilled worker program. Again, I'm going to spend a minute here because I think a large percentage of the audience here would be looking at immigrating to Canada. They're not already within Canada. Now, this program has minimum requirements for skilled work experience. So you need a minimum of 1 year continuous paid, that's 15-20 hours. And it will be for skill level A, skill level 0, A, or B. And if I think I prepared a slide that I would run through that would explain what these skill levels are. Language ability, you need a minimum of CLB 7, and that would be scoring essentially 6 on the IELTS on each of the 4 bands, the writing, reading, listening, and speaking. Now, for education, you need to have at least a high school or what we call secondary school in Nigeria. Now there's the federal skilled worker. The federal skilled worker program continues. You would actually be assessed in 6 areas: age, education, work experience, arranged work in Canada with a valid job offer, English proficiency in one of the languages. We know that Canada is a bilingual state, so we speak either English or French here in Canada as our official languages. Also, you need to show some form of of adaptability when you come to Canada. Now, there's a 100-point grid system that's used to check eligibility for this program, and you only need to score 67 out of the 100. And these points will come from the 6 different factors or areas that you would be assessed. Federal skilled trade is the third, but not the least program in the express entry system. This one is for people that are in the skilled trade sector, like what we call the technicians, electricians, mechanics, carpenters, and all of that. So this program is adapted for those set of persons, and it also has a minimum requirement. So for skilled work experience, you need like 2 years full-time work experience in the skilled trade within the last 5 years, and skill level B. And the major skill trades that are included in this program would be Group 72, Group 73, Group 82, Group 92, Group 632, and Group 633. I believe you can see all these groups on my slide. You would also be required to meet job requirements for that skill trade as set out in the National Occupation Classification, except for needing a certificate for qualification. Again, we can talk more about these programs during the Q&A session. You would need to have a job offer of full-time employment or a total period of at least 1 year work experience. Now, you need a certificate of qualification in that skilled trade issued by Canadian provincial or territorial or federal authority. You can see that the language requirement is watered down a little here. We see CLB 5 for speaking and listening, and CLB 4 for reading and writing. So there's a lot of watering down here. For education, there's no minimum requirement to come under this program. Now, in the express entry system, there is what we call the comprehensive ranking system, which everybody or almost everybody knows about, the CRS score. Now, based on these factors, each individual that comes into the pool is assigned a score, and periodically the government of Canada does draws to invite people to apply for permanent residence in Canada. So once your score meets the minimum score that of the people that are inviting in a particular score, a particular draw, you'll be invited to apply for permanent residence. I did say I was going to put a slide that explains NOC skill level. So I'm not going to waste too much time here. There's lots of information. This basically tells you the nature of education or training that's required to meet a skill level in a particular NOC code. So you can see, for example, skill level A, you would require a university degree at the bachelor's level, master's level, or a doctorate level. And you can see the requirements for the other levels, B, C, and D. Because of time, I would move along, but if you want to take a quick peek of the slide, you can take a picture, and then we can make some progress. Now, all we've talked about is where we've considered the express entry system. Now, I know that a lot of people would say, oh, maybe I don't need the requirement for the express entry system. Are there other programs that are available for me? The answer is a big yes. And that's why I have also put together alternatives to the express entry system. And that's what we will be looking at in the subsequent slides. So these are programs outside the express entry system. We have provincial nominee programs. Okay, one thing I would like to say here is that most provinces in Canada, they've keyed into the express entry system. They go into the system there to select people that they're interested in, and they issue them what we call notification of interest. So sometimes when you create an express entry profile, even though you don't receive an invitation to apply from the federal government of Canada, a province might go into the same express entry system and issue you what we call a notification of interest, and then they can get you to apply for their provincial nominee program, and they would eventually issue you a provincial nominee certificate, which will then speed up or accelerate your invitation to apply, and then get you to apply to Canada for permanent residence. However, there are some provinces that have programs outside the express entry as well. And one of them would be Saskatchewan. So Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program is SIMP. There's the Newfoundland Priority Skills. Again, we can talk more about all these in our Q&A session. There's the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. Now, there's something I like to mention to people each time I talk about the Manitoba, Provincial Nominee Program. It is the modern immigration. Note, the way the modern is spelled is different from the regular modern. So it is a little settlement. It is spelled M-O-R-D-E-N, modern. And they actually look out for people that can fill specific skills that is required in that little settlement. And once they're interested in you, they can facilitate your provincial nominee application and also your permanent resident application to Canada. Beyond that, we have entrepreneurs and self-employed persons. We have investors. We have startup business class, home childcare provider pilot, and home support worker pilot, immigrant investor venture capital class. We have the Atlantic immigration programs. Now, because of time, we're not able to look further into all of these that we've listed, but the ones that I highlighted on this list, we would spend like a minute or two to quickly talk about them and throw more lights on these programs. And then when we get, again, obviously, when we get to the Q&A session, if anybody has a question on any of the programs that we have here, we can talk a bit more about them. So we have, beyond the Atlantic immigration programs, we have Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot Program. We'll be talking about that. We have the Agri-Food Immigration Pilot Program. We have Temporary Foreign Worker Programs. We have lots of temporary foreign worker programs in Canada. And finally, the last thing we'll be talking about today would be the study route to Canada. A lot of persons have also asked about options available to them after they study in Canada. Would it just be when you finish studying, you pack your load and go back to Canada? We'll take a look on that. So the first thing we want to talk about today would be temporary foreign worker programs. Now, under the temporary foreign worker programs, there are different categories. One is the labor market impact assessment-based work permits. So essentially what is required is you would have to secure a job offer from a Canadian employer. Now, there is a little hurdle that most employers would have to go through to employ you, and that is embodied in what we call the labor market impact assessment. What is LMI, labor market impact assessment? It is, simply put in simple words, the Canadian employer has to demonstrate that they have tried to recruit a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident in Canada, and they have not been able to see someone that has the required skill, training, and experience to fill that role. And that is why they are looking outside Canada to fill the role. So again, that comes right clearly that they would have to show this demonstration that the skill that they're trying to hire you for, they're not able to get that in Canada. Now, there are many other programs that are LMIA exempt, and we are going to look at all of that. And we are going to look at some of them eventually. So once you have a letter of employment from a Canadian employer, the next question we really want to ask is, what route do we have? Will the employer want to take you through to apply to your work permit? Would it be an LMIA-based work permit or LMI exempt work permit? So we'll just make some progress here. So once you have a job offer from the Canadian employer, you would want to know what kind of work permit you'll be applying for. Again, whether you are getting the labor market impact assessment done is not on the side of the employee, it is on the side of the employer. So the employer would usually tidy up all the LMI and do all the other background work for you to apply for the work permit. Now there's a post-graduation work permit, which is usually what people get when they finish studying in Canada. We're going to talk about that, so I'll just keep that for now. There's an intra-company transfers work permit. So for example, you have a company in Nigeria or anywhere outside Canada, and then you have a branch of that same company in Canada. When you want to apply for a work permit, what you would apply for would be an intra-company transfer work permit, and that will sort of water down most of the requirements that you would need to apply for your work permit. So I will just make a quick, good. Okay, so let's make some progress here. Now I'll look at education. I have put up the map of Canada just to make everybody conversant with the different provinces and territories in Canada. Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. And you can see all across Canada, we have free education for children below 18 years of age. So if you're coming to Canada to study and you have children, you can come along with them and they will study for free while they're in Canada. Now, another good thing about studying in Canada is Canada has a high quality education Canada provides a high quality education for citizens, permanent residents, and even foreign nationals. They will all attend the same class, the same level of quality in terms of education in Canada. And also Canada, the government of Canada spends more per capita on education than any other country in the world. And I guess this is how they're able to put together the quality, the level of quality that they have achieved for their education here in Canada. I will quickly run us through a step-by-step guide if you want to apply for a study permit and you want to come to Canada to study. First of all, you need to understand the requirements. You need to choose your course and institution. You need to take a language proficiency test if it is required. Some schools will waive this for you if English is your first language, and if you have studied for a long time, using English as the language of study. Once you have gone past step 3, you need to apply to the universities. You need to secure admission into any of the universities of your choice. And then once you have that admission, you need to apply for a study permit. Once you apply for a study permit, all things being equal, you get your study permit, it's time to travel. Yay! You need to pack your things together and prepare to travel and come to Canada. Now, once you come to Canada, that's not the end of the story. You have to come to study. And I must warn you, studying in Canada is very, very demanding. So you need to plan ahead how you're going to study and how you're going to meet the demands and the challenges with studying here in Canada. Finally, life after study. People often ask, would you just leave Canada? When you're done with your studies, are there options available for you once you're done with your studies? The answer is yes, there are options available after your study. So the next slide we're looking at the immigration options after your study. You can see clearly here we have Postgraduation Work Permit Program, which obviously once you've studied in Canada between 8 months to at least 2 years, you would be eligible to apply for a post-graduation work permit. Any study that is less than 8 months will make you not eligible. Any study between 8 months and under 2 years, you are eligible, and the length or the validity of your permit would be the same as the length of your study. So for example, if I come for a training of 9 months, I would have a post-graduation work permit that is valid for 9 months. If I study for 12 months, that permit will be valid for 12 months. However, if I study for up to 2 years or more, the study permit would be valid for 3 years. So once you study for 2 years, you then have 3 years validity on your study, on your post-graduation work permit. Now, there are other programs, Federal Skilled Worker Program, which we have talked about, Federal Skilled Trade Program we've talked about, and Canadian Experience Class. So these 3 will be under the express entry that we talked about. But remember, once you've studied in Canada, you then gain more points because under education in Canada, you would score additional points there. Now, we have Quebec Skilled Worker Program if you have studied in Quebec or you want to immigrate to Quebec, Quebec Experience Class. Now, a lot of people get a little confused because is Quebec not in Canada? Is it not a province in Canada? Yes, although Quebec is a province in Canada, they have decided to run their own programs, just as the case with many other provinces in Canada. So if you are planning to immigrate to Quebec, you would not, you cannot do that under the federal skilled programs or the federal, the Canadian Experience class. You would have to apply to Quebec directly. Now we have provincial nominee programs. We talked about that before. Federal self-employed program, immigrant investor venture capital. These are some of the things we've listed on the list before now. I'm just going to make some progress here and look at some other programs that we want to talk about today. Now, another very good program, I think this is the second to the last program we'll be looking at today, Atlantic Immigration Programs. We have three of these programs, three programs that are under the Atlantic Immigration Program. Initially, this program, the government tested it for 3 years or thereabout, and now the government of Canada has seen that the program is very viable, and they've decided to make this program permanent. That's why you no longer see Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. The pilot has now been taken away. It's now Atlantic Immigration Programs. And we do have three programs under this. The Atlantic International Graduate Program means you would have studied here in Canada to qualify for that. The Atlantic High Skilled Program and the Atlantic Intermediate Skilled Worker Program. For the interest of time, I'm just going to quickly go through the requirements of the three. I'm not going to read the slide, but you can read through and see the requirements for these three programs. Again, feel free if you want to take a photo of the slide so that you can take your time to read through these slides. Or you can always Google these programs and you see these requirements. This is for the Atlantic High Skill Program. And these are the requirements. One good thing that I would like to highlight here is that 12.5% of LICO. I mean, this is a fantastic way of watering down the proof of fund requirement, because a lot of people complain about how they're able to save up money for proof of funds and all of that. But under this program, your proof of fund or what you need to show your to demonstrate financial capacity is only 12.5% of LICO. And I'm going to show you a table of the LICO. LICO obviously is a function of your family size. So I'm going to show you a table of the LICO. It's 12.5% across board. So it's not as high as what you would show as proof of fund for the regular skilled worker program on the express entry. Now, I did mention that I was going to show you a table for LICO. So this is LICO, and I've done like a comparison how LICO has grown over the last 5 years, including this year. So you can see from 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And it is a function of your family size. And this is for a 12-month LICO. So if you're, for example, you have a family of 3, that would include the parents. So a family of 3 would mean a father, a mother, and a child. And in 2022, your LICO would be $42,224, and you only need to demonstrate 12.5. I would leave you to do the math. 12.5 is really lower than what the regular express entry would require for proof of fund. Now, the last program we're going to be talking about today would be Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot. This is community driven. So communities within Canada are saying, okay, we're just going to go beyond the province to say, we want to attract the kind of people we want. So these communities came together to say, okay, once we see labor shortages in our community, we would try to drive these people and bring them into our communities. So another good thing with this program is it sort of spreads the benefits of economic immigration to smaller communities, even though everybody would want to go to the bigger communities. But like people in Canada would agree, when you come to Canada, you would eventually see that it's not really about the big city. Again, not everybody will live in smaller cities. At the same time, not everybody will live in the bigger cities here in Canada. And this creates a path to permanent residence for skilled foreign workers who want to work and live in one of the participating communities. And I'm going to share a slide that shows the participating communities. Now, so if you want to take a quick picture, in the interest of time, we will move along to the next slide, which talks about IRCC requirements. Now, IRCC requirements. Now, if you go, the previous slide showed the different communities, and I believe there were links there that showed that helped you to go into the different communities and see the requirements of these communities. But beyond the requirements of these communities, IRCC, which is like the federal government of Canada, also has its own requirements. So you would require 1 year of continuous work experience in the last 3 years. You'd have graduated from a publicly funded post-secondary institution in the recommending community, or you have language requirements as shown on the screen, and every other requirement that you can see on the screen. So this is where I would like to stop, but I'd like to thank everyone for taking our time to attend this session, and for everyone that has tuned in from the various parts of the world that you have connected from. Thank you for your time.